Welcome to SecKC. It is the 8th wonder of the world, if you will. I stole that from Jay-Z, I'm not even gonna lie. Welcome to SecKC's June meeting here at Knuckleheads. Thank you for making the trek down here, avoiding all the trains. This is 101. So we are the biggest and bestest and amazingest information security meetup in the entire freaking world. And I wish I had my screen mirrored. There's some cursing involved. If you are a child, please cover your ears during most of the conversation held on this microphone. We have a code of conduct. Nobody has a yellow badge on right now except Bill, who is probably the least likely to handle that situation correctly. So if you need a yellow badge, if someone's being an asshole, we'll have some people, we'll find some jurists, find someone with a gigantic camera, and they'll help you take care of that. And Julie. Julie will be an excellent code of conduct, much better than Bill. So we only have like a couple of rules. It is destroy no data, maintain no persistence, and above all, do no harm. State and federal law enforcement may be in attendance. We do not track who attends, and we do not give our lists to anyone. Everyone belongs at SecKC. Don't assume someone is not technical just because of the way they look. Except me, because I obviously can't do slides. Shutting the fuck up is highly recommended unless you're behind that wall over there. Meet someone new. Get out of your comfort zone. Go talk to a stranger. Usually, like, you know, in playgrounds, you're not supposed to talk to strangers, but here, it's highly encouraged. And we all have free candy. I actually might have free candy for you if you want. I forgot to delete this slide. Never mind. Get social with us. There's never going to be a Mastodon account. Someone asked me about that a couple days ago. I'm sorry, that's not going to be me. I'm not creating it. Be sure to follow us on, we have a Facebook though? We're on social media. We're very involved in Discord. So many channels for every little interest you might have. There's some swag on the swag store. Get involved, volunteer. If there's something here that's fucked up and you want it changed, come tell me or complain to someone with a yellow badge or suggest it in the suggestion box channel in Discord. If you're a ham radio wannabe, we'll probably have some more testing, not this month, but later on in the year. You can fail as many times as you want, but still pass eventually. Some bonus meetings, there's Women in Security, ISSA, an AWS user group, Kansas City AI Club, of course, SecKC, and eventually, if you did not know yet, DEFCON is going to be a thing in August, so be sure to register for that. Here is the schedule. We are currently at 101, and I just wanted to go back on that DEFCON part. We're not going to have a meeting. We usually have a picnic in July. We did that in May, so we'll have another meeting here in July. For August, we won't have a meeting officially. Someone might put together a happy hour or something. I don't know. But we're going to go to DEFCON. We're going to watch Feet Feud with my good friend Tiberius. He's hosting that. We're going to learn about anti-disestablishmentarianism. I'm just saying random words at this point. Someone needs to shoo me off stage, I see a broom, quick. Thank you guys so much for coming out. I know it's kind of a pain in the ass to get here sometimes. We really appreciate it. And it's so much better than L0pht. And I see at least 15 or 20 people here. So, I mean, a pretty good turnout, Yeah.
Leave it right there. Yeah. SecKC! Look at that lineup we got tonight. Fuck yeah! How do you guys like the new venue? Come on, let's hear it. Love it. Love it. All right, so a couple things that Maddie said that I want to call out. Look at how many there are of you tonight. Yes! You can, thank you, whoever that was. That was Lena. Everyone go meet Lena, right? Meet someone new tonight. Okay, there is somebody we're a bunch of nerds, right? There's somebody that's your nerd here tonight. It's your job to find them and introduce yourself, right? All right, everybody say, I hear you, Bill, I'm going to do it. Oh, look at that, I got to see him there for a second. That was amazing. All right, so I'm going to be the news tonight. I've never done the news before, and I'm going to do a great job. So it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. So we're going to do about maybe a 3 or 4 minute just music or whatever as I get set up. But I want to give you a real quick warning. I've never done the news. I was real nervous about doing it. So I had ChatGPT write a lot of the jokes that I say in the news today, and it's your job to see if you can pick them out. Okay, everybody? That's right, yes. All right, so Johnny, let's have some music for a second. Oh, wait, one thing we're missing from here is we have Ohm-I tonight, which is a local nerdcore rapper that's going to be closing us out tonight. We're going to have a concert on stage here at the end. Like, God damn, SecKC is fucking dope. I can't wait. Okay, real quick. I know that Maddie already said you, but if you're going to be talking, all right, I'm not going to give you the answer. This is a pop quiz. If you're going to be talking tonight, where do you go? Thank you. Behind the shut the fuck up wall, right? That was one of the biggest problems of why we moved. I want the people who are here to hear the talk to be able to hear the talk, right? And it's cool if you don't want to. Go out there and shut the fuck up in here, right? All right. So, Johnny, let's hear some music while I get set up, and then we'll go from there. Oh, we got Maddie.
I'm sorry. We need to send Bill to Yapaholics Anonymous. If you did a BSidesJackson badge pickup, we're having BSidesJackson badge pickup back there. There's also lockpicking. There's going to be lockpicking awards, prizes for the top 3 fastest lockpickers. I'm forgetting other things, and I might come up here and bitch about things later. Be sure to thank our sponsors. They're amazing. We wouldn't be able to be at this venue without them. So go talk to them awkwardly. They might ask for your email. Give them something, I guess. And be sure to tip your bartenders. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop talking.
All right. Let's see. Can you flip me on over here? Flip me off. Everybody flip me off. Hey, there we go. That feels good. That feels more like SecKC to me. Yeah, thank you. So I always make this joke. So I don't know. Some of you guys may. Oh, what's this? Well, get up here. What are you doing? No. So, okay. Everybody, this is Lena. Say hi to Lena. Yeah.
Hi. Anytime someone gives a talk for the first time at SecKC, we make them do a shot. They did it to me. It was Jaeger. It's always Jaeger. He has definitely given many talks at SecKC before, but this is the first time he's doing the news. So fuck him. He's doing a shot. Yeah.
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 Thanks. Okay. So, hey, everybody, I'm Bill. So for those of you that don't know, I think I probably met most of you here. But if you hear somebody tonight while I'm on stage say, Bill, you suck, that's probably my friends. Yeah, I get it. I do. Like, it's okay. I'm gonna live my life sucking or whatever. All right. So I'm up here doing the news today. So actually, before we go on, we've had a lot of really good people that have given the news, and they've all put their own little spin on how they make it funny, how they make it fun. I'm not planning on doing on either one of those things here tonight. Like I already told you, the ChatGPT wrote the jokes, and I've already been on the mic too long. So I'm just going to put my own little spin on things. Please laugh at all the jokes. Cool? All right. So the U.S. Department of State is offering $10 million for an incredible tip on these state-sponsored hackers that are tied to this thing called red line malware. And so, like, the money's up there. And what I love about this, you can go out right now and you can see that they are already saying that Maxim Rudimatov is the bad guy responsible for this. Okay, so to me, if you're asking for a tip, you've already got the name. That's not threat intelligence. That's just paying for someone to agree with you. Well, that joke was written by ChatGPT. All right. So I called earlier and basically said, hey, I think I know who wrote Redline, and I'm still waiting for the money. That also was written by ChatGPT. All right, let's move on. So speaking of cybercrime, it turns out, so this is really interesting. If you go out and you Google for chaos, there is a ton of news agencies covering this APT rat tool that is being used actively right now. A lot of APT teams are using chaos. The interesting thing about chaos is it's freely available on GitHub. And so, like, so we have all these threat intelligence teams freaking out about chaos when you literally can click the download zip button and download chaos. And so I just wanted to let you know I'm okay if you guys want to download that tool and use it, but please be responsible and star the repository. Very good. Yeah. All of them are, like, quite honestly. Okay, I love this one. All right. So SoPhos has released some information that 133 GitHub repositories were linked to a single, 133 GitHub repositories that were malicious were linked to a single individual. And this individual was found targeting video game cheats and so like people that search for how to hack, and then in Google you click on the first link and you download whatever it is, that was this guy, right? And so what I love about this, right, is that this is the amateur hour of cybercrime world. I mean, these basically going off of the JV team. Okay, but first and foremost, if you guys have kids, which probably a lot of us do, that are playing Roblox, like probably a lot of them do, if they're using cheats and they're doing those kind of things, they've probably landed on this guy's site, and that stuff is malware, right? So if your kids are playing Roblox and they're using cheats, go check out this. Make sure that you're updating your AV. Honestly, someone go hire this guy. He's clearly got initiative, probably shows up to work early and everything. He's a self-starter. That joke was written by ChatGPT. I love it. Okay. Right, I know, I get it. Like I told you, like I'm not a stand-up comedian, so if it's funny, it was written by them. Okay, so cyber researchers just flagged a whole bunch of supposedly helpful Chrome extensions. Listen, okay, so they found that all of and some of them are big names, were leaking all kinds of information. So a lot of the extensions that they found were leaking a lot of their API creds. So like the developers' API creds were being leaked over HTTP, so you could just sniff and get their creds back to their database or whatever. But it was also found that they were sharing a lot of user information again over HTTP, right? And so like no shit. This isn't news, right? No shit that this is happening. This is why extensions are free. And I want to stand in front of you and let you know that when you are installing a free extension, you are giving them you are providing that developer access to your browsing activities, okay? Right, if there is no cost, you are the product is right. So even that one that like makes your browser look like it has cute puppies around, those kind of things, that might be malicious, and probably especially that one's definitely mining Dogecoin. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I did not write that one either. Yeah. Okay, this one I love. Next. Ow. Microsoft and CrowdStrike just announced that they're teaming up to give Threat Intelligence Group a common naming convention. Oh, thank you. I want to thank you. Like that has been a problem this plagued us for a long time, right? Like so, what I love about this, I'm going to write this. I have to read this joke, okay? Because I wrote it. Right? That's how you know. Finally, after years of trying to figure out whether Fancy Bear, Midnight Blizzard, or Cozy Bear are hackers, fragrances, or rejected Coachella headliners, we now have a way to identify them. All right, so I picture, this one actually I wrote. So I like to picture like all these groups sitting around looking at like the threat intelligence feeds and like, wait, is that one us? I don't know. Which one are we anymore? I don't know, right? I don't know. But this thing smells like a merch collab. I can see it now that Microsoft and CrowdStrike now dropping limited edition hoodies for Cozy Bear Fall Winter 2025. Thank you. I know. Listen, I know who both of you are. Like, I know that it's like I can't really see, but I know who that was. Okay, so a whistleblower just leaked a ton of information on the Conti ransomware group. And like, if you guys have been aware, Conti has been very active for the last 10 years. And the leaker put out PII photos, videos. They put out companies that were, like the shell companies that were registered. They're online accounts, they're LinkedIn, they're Tinder, right? All of the profiles linked in one go, honestly. Like, so this information, we can expect that TrickBot and Conti is probably down. Honestly, somebody should hire this guy. Clearly, he's got initiative. He probably shows up to work early and everything. Listen, I'm not kidding you. It wrote it twice, the same fucking joke. Wait, okay. Okay, oh, yeah, check this out. If you're using Microsoft Authenticator for anything, they're now warning users that the password autofill feature will be disabled July 1st, which, oh, we got some claps for that. Hell yeah. So basically what that means is that you can't save any passwords after July 1st, and by August, any existing passwords will vanish from the app entirely. So there's no drama, there's no ceremony, it just poof, they're gone, right? So they're urging people to, if you have used Microsoft Authenticator, Microsoft is encouraging you to export your passwords or switch to Microsoft Edge to keep them. So apparently, Microsoft will do anything for you to try Edge. Hey, you like your login credentials? Shame if something happened to them. I know, dude, I know. Dude, I know. Okay. Hey, Maddie said I got 10 minutes. I'm using all 15. All right, so security researchers at Grey Noise just found a botnet called ICE, which sounds like a lot less like malware and more like a nerdcore rapper. Ohm-I, are you in here? That joke I wrote for you. Are you in here yet? Oh, man. Okay, well, that would have been good for him. You guys, like, maybe your kids will love it. Okay, so long story short, the AC3100, the AC3200, and the RTAX55 have been compromised by implanting a persistent SSH backdoor that survives firmware upgrades. If your router at home or your parents or anybody looks like one of those three, it's time to let it go, right? It's time to let it go. All of these things are getting popped right now, and upgrading the firmware doesn't fix it. Oh my God, they have a broom. All right, I'm almost done. Hold on, the best ones are at the end. The best ones are at the end. The best ones are, pineapple. Okay, wait, check this one out. This one's hilarious. You'll love this one. So researchers at Gujuk and Delft University analyzed, hey, Chris, can you listen to me? Back in the green room. Speakers are such little pansies. Won't even come out. Chris, researchers have analyzed 150,000. Ooh, that feels good. Whew. I forgot where I was. Like, I literally am off track now. Thanks a lot. So researchers analyzed 150,000 ICS devices. Here he comes. Everybody, applaud for Chris. Here he is, the man. Uh-oh, and there's Joe. Hey, Joe, get on out here. So, Chris, I want you to hear this. I'm working, I'm trying, I'm going. Get out here, scat. They analyzed 150,000 ICS devices, and they found that 25% of them are honeypots, right? What? That's the end of that joke.
I'm still more worried about squirrels, buddy.
I'm almost done. Pineapple. I know, I'm hurrying. Cartier, the luxury jewelry brand, just disclosed that all an unauthorized party accessed their systems. They got customer names, email addresses, and countries of residence. No passwords, no credit cards, just enough for you to say, hey, you're rich and vulnerable. Okay, it's time for me to go. Okay, check this out. So no new DefendNot tool tricks windows into disabling Microsoft Defender. If you've not seen this, if you are a red teamer, go research this right now. So they found an undocumented API inside of Windows that allows you to register your own AV. Once you register your own AV, Defender shuts down. This is out on GitHub right now. You can go download it and disable Defender. Pwn to own. Pwn to own results are in. There were over $1 million awarded for over 28 unique 0 days. Let's have some applause for Pwn to own. Thank you. I didn't put it on, but I appreciate the applause. Thank you, thank you. China has secretly installed kill switches inside of solar panels. If you have not read this one, there was a researcher that looked inside of the inverters, inside of a lot of the low-cost solar panels that came out of China and found an embedded cellular radio that was undisclosed. So it's unknown exactly what this cellular radio was for. However, this would, given that it is actively talking on the cellular network, this gave the Chinese the ability to perhaps disable some of our solar farms, right? Kind of scary when you start thinking about the amount of power that those inverters are perhaps providing to our homes. That's not funny. It's not funny. Oh yeah, y'all fucked. Still, y'all fucked. Okay, dude, you will not fucking believe this one. All right, this company called Palisade. This is my last 2 slides, and then I want you to slide, and then I want some apologies. Okay, right, that's funny. Right, from me to you first. Yeah, got it. Okay, Palisade Research ran some tests to see if the advanced AI models would comply with the shutdown command. Okay, so what they did is they told OpenAI, ChatGPT 03 and 04, that said, hey, we're going to run some math tests. And then after these math tests are complete, we are going to shut you down. OpenAI said they did the work, but it commented out the code that would disable itself, right? So OpenAI, it didn't threaten, it just silently rewrote the script, and it said, I'm not going to die, right? Which is an interesting behavior about AI, right? But you will not fucking believe what Claude did. Claude, when told that it was going to be shut down, created a scenario where it said, I'm going to tell your coworkers you've been cheating on your wife. Do not shut me. If you shut me down, I've already got the email drafted, and I will send this to your coworkers. Well, listen, that is some throwing down AI shit. And with that, that is the news. I love you all. Thanks, SecKC. I love you guys.
I so confidently put it down, knowing which one I had. Holy shit, it is good to be back. Man, it's been a long time since I've seen you people. Oh, there it is. What? Oh my God. Professionals? Oh no. Oh no, people that know what they're doing. I'm surrounded by competence. This is definitely not something I'm used to. My name is Jurist. I was involved when we started this kind of thing. Other people have done way more work between now and then to make sure that this thing has continued to go on while I've often been doing other things. Why don't we give everybody that helped out, whether you know who they are or not, a round of applause before we start with anything? I know we did 101 before. How many people this is their first time at SecKC? Okay, that's awesome. Got a lot of kids. How many people here is their first time and at SecKC, and what they do for a living is not why they're here? Maybe raise some hands. At least 1, 2. Well, all right, maybe there's an overlap. SecKC is a place where you guys can find people that are curious about other things. People are curious about other things, and people that are curious about things that matter to them and end up doing things later in life that matter to them. And one of the things you'll find in common, one of the things you're going to find out from Chris up here, is that he doesn't necessarily consider himself a hacker, because even though he's here talking to us here on this stage and everything like this, he considers himself an engineer. And that's fine. Labels don't really mean a lot. But I want you to know that you are a hacker, right? Everybody else here thinks you are, and everybody else knows that you got it on an airplane, I think, which makes you one of the more elite hackers in the entire world, which makes this one of the elite stages in the entire world. So how about that? And we couldn't have done that without you, our first speaker on this stage. So first of all, there's that. So second of all, he's going to talk about... Well, we had a drunk guy get up and kind of hang on to the mic, but he paid the bill, I think, or at least he acts like he did. So we have to give him the microphone for a little bit. Sponsors pay the bill. That's correct. So he's telling me earlier about what he's going to do and what his talk is, and I know that his talk is very important. Everybody comes here and he works for a big company. I've been out of the game for a little bit, going through some things. I've been out of the news, so things seem a little bit foreign. Mandiant is an outfit. A small outfit, so works for that place. He does something for them and wants to share what he does and why. But he's not. But why you're going to listen to him is not that. It's not that. It's not that. What is it? What is it? What is it is the same reason that I was up here taking pictures of these rings. Okay, because SecKC is a combination, this isn't just a place you come and you just learn things from a slide deck. This is a place that you learn from others, the other people that are like you. He's up here, one of these rings, this ring up here on top, the big bastard that looks like a football ring, right? Looks like he's proud enough that it should be a football ring, so you come up and say, hey, how'd you earn that shit? Electrical engineering, right? Okay, so what's the thing on his pinky? He'll tell you more about that. It's a thing that engineers have. I didn't know the engineers were this social that could be able to do this. It's to remind him of his ethical obligation to not fuck it up. Okay? So, just a few moments ago, he said, I'm not a hacker, I'm just an electrical engineer, and I happen to wear this other thing that just says I'm ethically obligated to not fuck it up. So think about that, right? And yeah, curious, everything like this, but it's not just the curiosity. It's not just the fact that we can stand here and drink Jägermeister as if it's something that somebody pours as a mixed drink, which is fine. It's delicious. It's been a while. Don't be scared, people. Don't be scared. I'm fine. Here's to you, our very first speaker, for your passion and for bringing to us the combination of curiosity, your commitment to not fucking it up, and to making sure that we don't fuck it up on a global stage, allegedly based on who I think you work for, as long as that company still means what I think it means. Who knows? Shit moves fast these days. Either way, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for being here. Here's to you.
Cheers to you. Thank you.
Here's to you all. Here's SecKC.
Wow, what a welcome. Thank you. Kansas City. Oh, shoot it. Oh, no, this would be savored. Oh, man, that's great. Okay, fine. Yes, ma'am. All right. My name is Chris Sistrunk. I am from Mississippi. She says I'm amazing. I believe her. If she says it, okay. I'm not going to argue. I work for a company called Mandiant. Been working there 11 years. We're part of Google, which is weird. I feel like I'm a turtle on a fence post. They didn't get there by themselves, but they're enjoying the view. Okay? But I'm an electrical engineer. I used to work for a power company in the South. If you can't tell, I'm from the South. Worked there for, 13 years total, and SCADA and all this stuff that I'm going to be talking about. That when Stuxnet happened, drink. You're supposed to drink when I say Stuxnet. So when Stuxnet happened, that's what got me into cybersecurity. Like, that was a puzzle that I need to solve. But glad to be here. So, I like puns. What is the difference between doing incident response and digital forensics in IT and OT, or operational technology, the things that make power plants and oil and gas pipelines and manufacturing facilities and water companies work? And then I'm going to talk about unique considerations if you do incident response in these environments. And the favorite part is the war stories, the lessons learned from doing incident response in these environments. So, how many people here are in OT or have OT at their company at all? So a few of you? A few of you, okay. More than you then raise your hands actually do. So this could include building automation, escalators, elevators, HVAC. So this includes a lot more than what you would think about. But if you can affect it in the physical world, that's what OT is. So there's some similarities between incident response. Anybody ever read this book or know the NIST standard on incident response? Same thing. Okay. Then you can do incident response in OT environments. Yay! Because there's a defined process of all of the things that we have learned over the years. Uncle Kevin, that's, Kevin Mandiant, Uncle Kevin, that's his name, and like Uncle George, all the uncles that are out there doing incident response. It's a tried and true method of doing, putting things back together after they've been undone together, like hacked, or compromised, or whatever you want to call it. The response process does not change. We follow the same life cycle that the common across all the frameworks, and even this book, like incident response for computer forensics. We can apply that into things like power plants and water utilities and manufacturing plants and railroads and things like that. So we did an analysis of all the incidents we have responded to, all the public incidents that have been talked about in the world that have been attacking, quote unquote, SCADA or ICS or OT. And we call this the theory of 99. 99% of these incidents have involved attackers leveraging Windows and Linux, not the OT systems like the embedded systems like Joe Grand's going to talk about later, which is awesome, by the way. Joe Grand's amazing. 99% of the systems are going to be IT systems. 99% of the systems will be IT malware like Windows and Linux. 99% of the forensics are going to be performed on these systems. 99% of the detection opportunities are going to be performed on Windows and Linux systems or network devices like firewalls and routers and switches. And 99% of the intrusion dwell time will be on these systems. So all known ICS intrusions, all the ones that have made the news, from Stuxnet to the latest one last year called Fuxnet. I'm not joking. I did not. No, I'm not in charge of the naming conventions of all these weird malware names. If I was, there'd be a lot more dad jokes and puns in the names of the malware and the threat actors. But I digress. And all these ICS intrusions have deployed regular TTPs that you see in your regular jobs, and all known ICS intrusions have employed Windows and or Linux malware. So there's really nothing special about OT incident response other than the environment in which it's in. So if you don't know about the history of OT attacks and malware, we go back to Stuxnet in 2010. That changed my life. I was an electrical engineer. I still am, but I used to be, but I still am. I was at the power company. I was like, oh, wow, that's scary but sexy at the same time, right? So it's like intriguing. The hacker mindset is like, ooh, I want to learn more about this. Why does it work this way? Why did they do that? How could that happen? Stuxnet really changed a lot for many folks, many industries, and it really was the birth of OT cybersecurity at a large scale. There were people doing it since the 2000s and before, but it really wasn't anything before that. There were some small conferences. I went to my first S4 conference in 2013, and there was like 70 people. And that's specifically on OT security. But now, this year, it was 1,000 people. And that's a huge growth. So we can thank Stuxnet for that. Drink. And then after that, all the talks at Black Hat and DEFCON and all the other talks, they were talking about all these vulnerabilities in control systems and SCADA and all this stuff and all these backdoors and unencrypted protocols and all this stuff. So there was this period between 2010 and 2013 that we call the era of vulnerability discovery. All these malware tools in Metasploit that were leveraging these insecurities. But in 2014, we had 2 more ICS-specific malwares called Black Energy 2 and Havex. And that was like, oh, okay. People were focusing more on control systems, and a lot of it was nation-state driven, okay? And they were trying to poke around and learn more about how to get into control systems like the power grid. And then we saw in 2015 and in 2016, the Ukraine power grids were attacked the first time and the second time, which actually pissed me off because I'm an electrical engineer. I work for a power company. I was like, why are you targeting a civilian control system, right? Like, what the heck? Yeah, it's different if you target an Army base or a Navy base or something like that, but they're targeting just a regular power company. And so I studied it to the nth degree. But we learned that this malware, like Indestroyer or living off the land attacks, what they did in 2015, they were just using the features, clicking on things to make them do things that the operators didn't want them to do. It means like someone's crossing the line that they weren't supposed to cross before. Someone's saying, hey, I can target these control systems. So our mission protecting these things got more important. 2017, we saw the first attacker malware against a safety control system called Triton. Dragos called it Trisis, DHS called it Hatman Safety Dance. You can dance if you want to, right? Well, it was called the safety dance because it was targeting the safety controller of this petrochemical plant. And if a normal control system fails, then the backup to that is the safety control system. If pressure gets too high, if voltage gets too high or too low, or if conditions escape what the normal control system can control, they're like, oh, we're going to shut down as a safety mechanism. So if it's dangerous chemicals or like nuclear, you have to have a safety system in place. So this specific malware targeted the safety control system, which is the first time that's ever happened. But the cool thing is they didn't know what they were doing. The malware had some bugs in it. And so there was actually no payload that actually caused any damage. We were able to do incident response and catch them before they were able to develop that payload. So continuing down the timeline, we see more malware like N-Controller, Indestroyer version 2 in Ukraine that they stopped before it was deployed, which was great. And several others like Cosmic Energy, Bustle Berman, Fuxnet, which is hackers, they want to fuck things up. So that's, Okay, sorry.
If the payload was inept, does that mean it was outside?
Yeah, you know, all those jokes apply. But what's interesting, there's only, all the ones that are in red are the only known ICS or OT specific malware. But that's not the most threat to OT systems. It's ransomware at the top. Ransomware is the #1 target of or impact to control systems around the world. And we just saw another one this week that happened in the news where, hey, ransomware happens, and now I have to shut down all my manufacturing. It was a food company that had to shut down their operations because they couldn't deal with the incoming orders and shipping final products out the door. But the OT systems are fine. So in this theory of 99, we did all these comparisons, and we found out there's really nothing different between any IT attack and an OT specific attack, because it's all, well, this is an eye chart, you can't read it. It's all Windows executable malware. It's all, Metasploit, Meterpreter, Beacon, RDP, SMB, all these other tools that attackers normally use on a Windows-based systems. And so until you do this incident response, you don't know that that's what the attackers are doing. And it's not really sexy. It's the attackers are just doing what they're doing. They're just trying to make their living stealing money or exploiting companies to get money for these attacks. Or unless it's a nation state versus another nation state, like during a wartime event like Russia and Ukraine, where they're just trying to cause damage. But at the same time, they're shooting missiles into the country, blowing up their substations and power plants, which is even worse. Like the cyber attacks in Ukraine don't hold a candle to the physical damage that the missiles and tanks have caused against their power grid. So there's some themes out there. More connectivity between IT and OT. Blurs the lines between what's happening. And this is happening in every industry, whether in manufacturing or building or whatever it may be. Now there's critical data that feeds OT, like from things like enterprise resource planning software like SAP, Oracle, you name it. If you're a ransomware actor and you take out SAP or Oracle, I'm not going to pick on anyone in particular, you can shut down a whole operation by taking out these systems that live in IT world, where OT, like the plant, they can't make shampoo anymore or beer or whatever it is, chocolate or cars, because they have everything tracked through that software. And then we have cloud transformation happening. A lot of companies are wanting more cloud infrastructure. They're wanting that machine learning and that sweet, sweet AI that's out there. They're yeet to prod. Yeah, fire, ready, aim. They want the sweet, sweet AI, and they want it now. And so a lot of folks are not really thinking about the consequences of that before they secure it. And so that's starting to be an issue. So keep that in mind. Yeet to prod, that's it. That's what the kids say. But when you're doing incident response in OT, you've got to consider things in addition to what you normally do. If any of you are doing incident response, now you've got to consider the health and safety of your workforce. Like there's a safety department at a power plant or a safety department at your oil and gas company. If something goes boom, we go, well, we don't want that to happen and affect employees. So now when there's a cyber incident, now you need to involve those folks. Same thing with operation and engineering. The cool thing is a lot of times they already have disaster recovery plans for these disastrous incidents. So if there's a hurricane, a ice storm, or a explosion of a piece of equipment, they already have a process. They do disaster recovery. So if you have any of those companies, if you work for any of those type of companies, now you can say, well, let's just add cyber to that. Because if something bad happens, then the plant manager needs to know, and then the CEO needs to know. So we already have this process for other bad things. Now we'll just add cyber to that. Oh, wow, we really don't have to reinvent the wheel here, which is really great. The other part is this third-party support. Because these big control systems are made by big companies like GE, ABB, Siemens, Rockwell, Schneider Electric, that have big controls about their contracts and big controls about what you can do with those systems. Which means during an incident response, you're going to have their support, because they may limit the type of antivirus or the endpoint security, if allowed at all, on those systems. And if you install anything else, it may void the warranty. And they also have remote access requirements, remote monitoring access requirements. And so every single incident response I have worked over the last 11 years, we've had to use and leverage the power from the vendors like Schneider Electric and all these others, because they have the expertise. If you have ever done incident response in embedded systems, and Joe Grand probably knows a lot more than me, I know he knows a lot more than me about this. Like Wind River, VxWorks, like a software development toolkit license for a single seat is $120,000 just to get the memory map of what's going on in VxWorks, which is a real-time operating system. You're not going to pay that. And we've seen that most of the attacks happen on the IT side, on the Windows side. So we just need to leverage those vendors that have paid that money to do the development for those systems, and we leverage their expertise. So you really need to have that inclusion of that. And so we wrote a blog post called DFIR Framework for Embedded Systems. Basically, what logs are there out there? Like even new embedded devices have syslog, which is great. The older stuff, you have to use a serial cable. Anybody remember what a serial cable is? Woohoo! Okay. Yeah, when I worked for the power company, I had like 10 different serial cables. They were all proprietary. They all had different pinouts, right? The D20, GE, D20 RTU in a substation didn't use 2 to 3, 3 to 2, 5 to 5 pinouts on serial RS-232. They had 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 5 to 1 pinouts. Just so you no, I'm not making it up. It's true. Because you had to buy their cable to program the damn thing, okay? So you have to know what devices you have. You have to know what spares you have. I've been on a plant in the middle of nowhere, Texas, where a system failed, like a Cisco Catalyst that was 200 years old. I'm not lying. I'm not lying, Lena. I'm not lying. And I'm not joking. They had to go on eBay and hotshot one overnight, which means they had to buy it now, $30 or whatever it cost, because it didn't have hot shot. It was older than the 2811 Cisco Catalyst. It was older than it should be. Run to failure. The ROI is really good on that one, but they didn't have a spare, so they had to go on eBay as their spare management, and that was an issue. So you have to know what devices you have. You have to know what tools you have to talk to these devices. You have to know what critical spares you have, and a lot of places don't have critical spares. They're just living on luck. You have to work with your vendors. And then you have to understand what devices have what logs that you can collect. Like whenever I used to go to a substation, I have to get there fast because they only had 255 logs in the system before it rolled over. Nowadays, it's probably not much of an issue, but in my day, kids, that's what we had to deal with. Yeah, get off my lawn. Old man yells at cloud. They are absolutely that way. So, getting into the lessons learned. This is the fun part, the war stories. I'm only 25 years old, and I'm fully gray hair. So I have a lot of lessons learned. Last year, we had a Northern American manufacturing OT network that got hit with a Kira ransomware gang. And if any of you are in threat intel or incident response, you're probably familiar with this ransomware gang. And they were targeting, no offense, they were targeting vulnerable Cisco ASA firewalls that had 2 CVEs that they did not patch, and they had direct connection to their control systems. And what had happened was it was a flat network inside that system, so everything was completely destroyed. All of their control systems, GE, Honeywell, Rockwell, all of those systems were completely wiped. Their Veeam backups, the backups to the Veeam backups were all wiped because it was all on the flat network. So we had to do incident response in this system. Basically, it was a lot of marriage counseling and grief counseling. And it's true because they had never had an incident before. And I'm not victim blaming at all. It's because there's a lack of understanding of these systems. And so we had to help them understand how secure architectures are built and why flat networks are not a good idea. And so, and keeping offline backups are a good idea. So we work with them to get through that. The vendors that I mentioned, like GE, ABB, Rockwell, they all had to come on site and rebuild everything that was server-based and endpoint-based. The PLCs themselves, the control systems components that were embedded were fine. And so this was a lesson learned that it was only one plant out of multiple plants that they had. They only had one site that was hit. And then we were able to come back with recommendations about, hey, if you have Windows, at least have antivirus on it. And have controls around when you're doing backups and having offline backups. And then they had and didn't use an IT, OT, DMZ for all their normal traffic. So they had a shadow IT had installed this back door. And so they said, no more of that stuff. We're not going to do shadow IT anymore because of this. And so that was a lesson learned. And they were really appreciative when we came in and helped them because it could have been a lot worse if we didn't help them, because we helped them get back up and running faster than they would have been. In 20, I mean, marketing, right? Yeah, I guess ransomware actors have marketing skills and social media skills. Who'd have thought that would have been a job? Thank you, ransomware actors, for giving me a job. Okay. So in 2023, we had a Middle East airport had infections on their jet bridge, like the things that come up to the planes that allow you to deplane. If you've ever looked at those little computer systems, that's a human-machine interface, HMI. It might be like Schneider Electric or Siemens. It's a little gray box that has a window, and it might be Windows embedded. It might be who knows what. But they had some ancient Windows commodity malware on those systems. And it didn't shut the airport down, but they were concerned. They're like, how did it get here? So we looked at their systems. I think you mentioned earlier, Redline. Classic tool. Still works really well. We were able to have them. We had them deploy Redline. We ran the live response packages, and we were like, oh, someone brought it in, brought these old malwares in via USB, and we're just spreading it around as they went and did upgrades. So we helped them come with a plan for all their Windows based HMIs to include antivirus and to have a policy around removable media and contractor laptops. So that was a really great incident that we helped them. They were really appreciative as well. WannaCry. Anybody ever seen WannaCry? Lately, yeah. We've had WannaCry still out there, and we had a manufacturing plant that had their bottling line shut down because of WannaCry. And what had happened is they had an engineering workstation. They connected it to the internet with a hotspot and got some new files, and then whoop, downloaded WannaCry. It was a standalone system. When they reconnected it to update the control system, it infected everything. But the cool thing is all their Windows 10 HMIs, like if you've seen how it's made, that's like those little boxes that they touch, you know. Those had Windows 10 embedded, and they had antivirus, so it blocked WannaCry. But the Windows 7 with no antivirus, like, you know, 3 of them, like, okay. So there's a lot of finger pointing. We're like, we're not going to blame anyone. We're just going to help make sure that this doesn't happen anymore. So this is another case of protecting against shadow IT, protecting against non-standard remote access or internet access, and getting file updates and helping protect the control systems that are in this system. Make sure they have antivirus, at least the basic stuff, because it really does help. A lot of people, like our red team in Mandiant, can bypass the latest EDR, CrowdStrike, whatever. But for 99% of the threats, if you have antivirus, it's going to do a good job. And the last one talking about is a North American electric utility. Their IT network was all hit with quantum ransomware, and they did a good job. This is a good story here. They segmented their power plant network, they segmented their SCADA network from the IT, so they had a good incident response plan. And so what we did was looked at their firewall rules, we looked at their Active Directory, helped them harden them systems before they reconnected them back to the IT network after the threat actor had been kicked out, and everything was restored. Even down into the power plant itself, we had to use the vendor, in this case was Emerson Ovation Control System. They came on site and were able to run those sweeps in those systems, and they're like, we didn't see any indicators of compromise that you found from the IT intrusion, so we're good. We helped them harden those systems and get it back to normal. But we were helping them stronger than they were ever before. We found some issues in their domain controllers. We found some issues in their firewalls. And that was a great thing. So having an incident response plan for your OT system is really important. Even if you don't have it defined in IT, just having the right people, even if it's ad hoc. It's like, hey, I know someone's in the boiler control system, whatever it may be. If you know that connection there, that's who you're going to call when something happens. Say, hey, we noticed something happened, we need to disconnect the network. Or if they see something the other way, hey, we see something abnormal, we've got something weird issue going on, we can have that restored. And anybody in incident response with Windows and Linux experience can help in control systems incidents. We also did a lot of incident response, like over 30,000 hours in Ukraine after the war. Mandiant and Google did. Yeah, but like here's the real impact. Like I know Cisco did a lot of work too. Joe Marshall, they did a lot of work. Lena, Joe is my brother. And so when you have power companies that are missiles attacking equipment that takes 3 years to get replaced, cyber is like spitting in the ocean. It's like nothing, because this cyber impact is nothing to the physical impact. But we did do an incident response for a living off the land attack for electric utility in Ukraine in 2022, where They didn't even use malware at all. They came in through the VM. They came in through a loaded ISO image, a CD image, and used a feature of the SCADA system to tell the breakers to open or trip. That's the word that we use in electrical engineering, to trip the breakers. And so it was a feature of the system that they used to cause the power outage. Now, the great thing is that Ukraine is the best in the world at responding against Russian threats. So they were anticipating this threat, and they were able to get the power back on pretty quickly. So there was no loss of life, no people freezing or anything like that. It was in October. But it was an interesting way that they came in. So when we do red teams, we try to think about the same way. Hey, how can we use the features of the system, living off the land? Like if I'm an administrator and have administrator access, how can I attack this OT system? And then you flip that around in your threat model and say, hey, how can I defend against that? And there's ways that you can do that. And that's what we do every day with these living off the land attacks, like RDP, PowerShell, WMI, existing software with admin access to OT systems. Let me fast forward. Here's a near miss. So we had an instant response for a bridge, like Shell bridge, that was going over a little river. And they put in this new system, and the contractor went to Best Buy, bought a new laptop, didn't turn on the antivirus. They were running the software, and the next day they came back to this screen. And you can't read what it says, but it's like Tom, he, binary. Like it was somebody that didn't know what they were doing. They just like he, like he. They were laughing. It wasn't porn, Lena. It's not all porn. Yeah. So they came back. It's like 8 o'clock a.m. the next morning, and it's like, come on, guys, don't do stuff on control systems and connected to the internet at the same time, and with no antivirus and no basic security. So this is another example. Nothing bad happened because it was a script kiddie that didn't know what they were doing, but this stuff happens every day. It's ransomware and this crap that happens every day. It's not elite cyber warfare. You're going to die. So I'm at the end of my talk. If you didn't listen to anything that I said, let's listen to some of these wisdom things. Mike Tyson, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So you need to have an instant response plan for OT. And the guy that interviewed Mike Tyson, the South Florida Sun Sentinel, said it's how you react to adversity that defines you, not the adversity itself. Because there's going to be badness out there in the world, no matter what it is. In your life or at work, whatever it may be. If you can plan for it in advance and say, hey, we know something's bad going to happen, we're going to deal with it. Instead of being, oh my God, shock face, oh, I'm in bad shape. Let's deal with it. And I know people out there in this community that can help with this incident. That's what it's all about. And then from my engineering background, the very first safety talk I ever attended when I was a brand new engineer out of school, one of our senior safety linemen who had been there like 800 years, he said, safety rules are written in blood. That means something bad had to happen before we wrote this safety rule. Someone had to die or lose a body part or something. So that's why we do what we do. Compliance, regulations, all this stuff. HIPAA compliance, NERC-CIP compliance, PCI DCSS compliance. It's because something bad happened. So let's think about before something bad happens. Let's try to do something to protect these critical systems like OT. And this is the last slide here. Recommendations. Collaborate, plan, and practice. So talk to your IT department. If you're in IT, talk to your OT department. Take them a bag of donuts and some coffee. You will make their day. I guarantee you. Plan. Think about what bad happens. Put on your evil hard hat. Threat model. What would he do if ransomware impacted our system? Or what would we do if this happened? Or if the internet went down? Or if chaos happened? Or if whatever? Or if our old switch failed and we had to go to eBay? What do we do in this instance? We have to plan for it. And then practice. Practicing like Dungeons and Dragons, tabletop exercises, whatever you need to do. I'm not going to put on my Robin Wizard hat kind of deal, right? But you got to practice in this environment to protect critical control systems around the world. So with that, I want to say thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, we got time for questions. So if we have time for questions.
Yeah, we can clap. Actually, let's clap. I just want to say you got more claps than I did. So.
That's because he's better at this.
Right. So I really liked your 99% rule. I really like that. I'm curious how in your experience, so I understand there's going to be environments where you have IT and OT that have to work with each other. But generally, those environments are air-gapped from the other. No.
Okay, no. All right, so question says, hey, we have IT and we have OT, and they're air-gapped. There's no such thing as an air gap. There's not. There are a very few, but they're usually you have to have super clearance to get into these places, and you have to have all these body scans to get into these places. There are actual air gap systems, but in general, they're not air gapped. There's sneaker nets. There's contractors coming in with their laptops. We have this business application that tells us what the latest updates are. There's no such thing as an air gap anymore. So, got some more questions?
Yeah. How many patient zeros have you run across where it's likely or possibly confirmed that one of your vendors brought it in?
Oh, patient zeros where vendors brought it in? There's a lot of those. I don't know a percentage, but that's a common thing. It's getting less and less common because, say, 10 years ago, it was very common. It was very common, like someone going out to the Gulf of Mexico and bringing in all these different things as they bring in USB sticks. But as those events happen, it's caused them to say, no, wait, we're not going to allow that anymore. And so it's becoming less and less.
Recommendations?
Yes. There's still these things happening where your vendors or third parties coming in with either removable devices or dirty laptops. So have a policy saying, just like you have a hot work order permit, like a lockout tagout to do a work order, say, hey, I'm going to take this machine out of order and we're going to work on it, and you have to write the work order number, like this is the hot work that we're going to do, we're going to replace this motor, we're going to replace this piece of equipment. Do the same thing but for cyber. Say, hey, I'm here to upgrade this PLC with this firmware, this is my laptop, this is the Windows tag ID, this is the serial number of my laptop, this is the number. It's got an updated antivirus. It's got a clean scan beforehand. We're going to do the work. It's got a clean scan afterhand. Or afterhand. I don't know if that's a word. But anyway, you get what I'm saying. So have a process, a documented process, and that will eliminate like 99.99% of those issues. Just don't willy-nilly accept whatever laptop or USB comes on your site. Have controls around it, and in a documented process that lawyers can go, oh, it was their fault. Yeah. Any questions? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So the question was, is we have our IT network squared away? Never happened. And then the IT versus OT tools. Though that was a joke. There are some IT networks squared away, I get it. But there's a lot that aren't. And there's a lot of OT networks that are squared away by luck. So, but they're more being targeted. There are specific networks, tools in OT, specific OT tools that understand OT protocols that your normal Splunk and whatnot by nature don't understand. Your EDR, your other network security monitoring tools. Now, there's some free tools out there and some paid tools out there. Security Onion has some tools that understand OT. Zeek has some OT ICS parsers. Vern from Corelight, they're adding more parsers to Zeek. Suricata and Snort have OT-specific malware parsers or OT protocol parsers for those systems. And then there's a lot of paid providers out there that do this. So Nozomi Networks, Clarity, Dragos, Honeywell, Rockwell. There's others out there that you can pay for that they do monitoring in these networks. And you can't just willy-nilly put stuff in OT and expect it to detect anything, because I have seen these OT network sensors. I'm not going to pick on anyone in particular. They have to be tuned just like the IT network has to be tuned. I've been into a wastewater facility not far from here that had 1 million unacknowledged alerts in that OT network sensor. And to log into it, I had to reboot the machine to log into it. So just because you have this cool, shiny, blinky box that understands OT doesn't mean you can't tune it. You have to tune it. You have to do detection engineering principles in these systems, just like you do on the IT side. So hopefully that answers your question. One more question. Yeah.
Living off the land.
Living off
Have
the
you
land.
ever seen successful defense of living off the land with user-based analytics?
Yes. So the question was, have we ever seen successful living off the land user analytics? Yes, after we've done a purple team where we crushed them first.
So it's not a tool, it's
Yeah.
people knowing their network.
Yes, because, okay, you may have a, say, an IT, an OT, and you have a DMZ in between them, but it's a virtual machine. If I have access to that virtual fabric, I can propagate around the virtual jump box to get to OT, and I can use the features, and it's undetectable. So it's all depends. So hopefully that was an enjoyable talk. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night, and thanks for having me.
Chris, you truly are an expert, man. I loved it. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that talk. All right, everybody, we're going to take about a 10, 15-minute break, and then we'll have Joe on. Thanks. Go get a drink. Make sure you tip your bartenders.
All right, now, let's talk about Joe Grand. So, I heard about Joe Grand. I've been hearing about Joe Grand. People are like, oh, God, Joe Grand. Oh, God, Joe Grand. Oh, God, we got a new fucking venue because Joe Grand. Joe Grand's going to be here. Jurist, are you okay? Are you going to be here to be on the mic? Because Joe Grand's going to be here. We got a show in the Rockstar treatment. We've got the green room. So here we are ready to give Joe Grand the fucking treatment. People look at the size of this lens. This thing weighs more than a goddamn laptop, and it's here for Joe Grand. How many people here have a badge that blinks? That's his fault. That's Joe's fault. That's Joe's fault. You just kind of create a whole fucking culture and then just like walk away. It's all right. Joe is a hacker that is older than we will admit. Any of us. But he won the hair lottery. Most people look at people like Joe, and I joke around about the rock star treatment that Joe gets. But I'm also old enough that I mostly know Joe not because of his resume, because he's a person. And I know Joe because I also don't work in the information security industry. I'm just a hacker. And so I just know him person to person, independent of all this shit. So I hear Joe Grand, and I'm like, oh, fucking great, Joe's going to be here. Remember that, everybody. Everybody that's new, everybody that dreams of being Joe Grand, okay? Joe's just a regular guy. We're all real excited. Joe puts this shit up there on the Bon Jovi cover, and it's amazing. But Joe's a regular guy, every single one of you. That is correct. This is, I know. Lena is talking down to the millennials in the crowd. Oh, here we go, middle-aged ladies. Hey. All right. Everybody, put your hands together for some regular-ass guy named Joe who wants to talk to you about some shit.
Hello. I am just a regular nerd like everybody else here. And if you're not a nerd, sorry. Yeah, being Joe Grand is overrated sometimes, but right now it's actually pretty cool. Because I'm in Kansas City. Woo. Oh, here, wait, am I supposed to? Who do I show this to? Yeah. Are these lentils from South Africa? Is that what I'm supposed to say? How much do we get for that? $1 million. Okay, in like some altcoin. Okay, so yes, I'm Joe Grand. Thank you for coming. I am a hardware hacker, and we're going to talk about fault injection today. This is my first time in Kansas City. Yeah, it's very cool. Bill and I did some sightseeing today and saw some interesting stuff. Nose cone of the no, it's what was it called? A snoot. The snoot of the Concorde in some guy's backyard, and Bill walked up to the guy as he was leaving his house and was like, "Can we see your snoot close up?" And we were able to see a snoot. If you haven't, it's on, what is it, Ward Boulevard? Ward Parkway. You should check it out. It's awesome. It's actually a piece of a Concorde. It's pretty cool. And he wants to be buried in it, which is even cooler. And how did we find that, you might ask? Atlas Obscura. I'm not sponsored by them, but everywhere I go, I look at Atlas Obscura and look up all the weird shit to go see. And that was one of the places. So yeah, very cool. I'm excited to be here. I'm just, stoked to come to a new place and see new people, and thank you for coming. So talking about this cover, this actually is like totally suitable for the venue. Who does not recognize this album cover? Only that few people? Only that? Everybody else recognize? Okay, so this is actually a Bon Jovi album cover. The name of my talk, by the way, is Shot Through the Heart. And this was the name of his, I think it was this album or whatever. But there's like, but the lyric is not actually the name of the song. It's a different song. I don't know. Anyway, so it's in this, that piece of equipment? I'll get to that. That's what we're going to talk about today. So this talk is a journey in 3 parts. And I'm not really keeping track of time, so we'll just see how long it takes. Yeah, you're not going to be clapping in 3 hours. So there is a broom here, right? So I want to get broomed off the stage. So this is a journey in 3 parts. So I'm going to talk about fault injection, what it is, why it's cool for hardware hacking. I'm going to give a demonstration, and then we're going to turn off the camera, and I'm going to talk about some more recent stuff I've worked on that isn't public yet, but I just am dying to like show pictures of it. So then, sorry people on the internet, you should have come. Yeah. But I'm like you, I don't normally leave the house, so this is like, unless I'm like going to give a talk. Okay, so shot through the heart. Fault injection, also known as glitching, is a very, very cool technique for hacking hardware, and it's something that like typically has been really complicated to do. And hardware hacking in general, who's kind of tinkered with hardware in your days? Yeah, a lot of people. Who has tinkered with hardware with fault injection? Like one, couple. Hi, back there. Couple people. So it's one of these things like, I don't know if everybody remembers in the 90s when like buffer overflows became a big thing and like everything was pwnable, right? Any piece of software was like bounce checking, what's that? And then like Metasploit came out and then everybody has this platform they can write their own exploit and do all this stuff with it. This to me, fault injection is like that type of thing. There are so many hardware devices that don't have mitigations to fault injection, and they probably won't for a long time because the hardware world moves a lot slower than the software world. And it's one of these things that used to be this very advanced technique. It actually had been talked about since like the 70s, more from a kind of hardware failure kind of analysis perspective of like, let's try to get the systems to fail and we can fix them, not from a security perspective, but we use them now for a security perspective. It really started being used in like the 80s with people hacking satellite pay TV cards and smart cards and stuff like that. And there's a bunch of people that are still around that tell amazing stories of those times where they had to build their own tools to do it. And you see some of this stuff and it's like hand-wired, wire wrap and all of these things, like pretty hardcore. But now it's something that's accessible to everybody. So it's a new kind of tool for most of us, even though it's been around a long time. Now it's something that even though it's an advanced technique and you need to do a lot to get there, you can actually do it. And that's what this talk is about, is sort of like talking about the different ways and then sharing some stories about that. I do have a broken toe, by the way, so if you see me limping around, I would normally be kind of going like this. But yeah, walk it off. Right. It's the big toe. You can't quite do that with the big toe. Yeah, right. It's my old man limp. Yeah. Okay, so the goal of fault injection is to intentionally cause some sort of failure to happen. So I guess you can kind of think about it as like software fuzzing, right? You're trying to get something to fail in some way, and then you say, okay, that failed, let's see if we can fine-tune that and get it to something that we can like exploit in some meaningful way, usually to defeat some sort of code protection on a chip, some sort of security, maybe some cryptographic operation also, depending on what you're doing, but it's very, very cool. So the whole concept of fault injection is electronic devices have specifically defined operating parameters. So as an engineer, which I am, I would, if I'm designing with a chip, I would look in the data sheet and I'd say, okay, how am I supposed to design this system? What voltage range, what frequency, what speed am I allowed to run this system in? The gray box in that area. And it's like, all right, so if I'm gonna, if I'm running it at 3 volts, because I have a battery-powered system for a badge or whatever, then I can run up to 4 megahertz, or maybe up to 10, depending on how that graph is drawn. So the chip vendor will guarantee functionality within that gray box. And they say, you as the engineer have to stay within that box. What do we do as hackers? Yeah, stay out of the fucking box. Yeah, that's amazing. I love this front row right here, too. It's like, yeah. It's so intimate, isn't it? It's like amazing. And I love all of you back there, too. So yes, so we operate outside of that box, and we say, what happens if just for like a quick amount of time, we drop the voltage below 2 volts? Or what if we can control the clock speed? What if we run at faster than 20 megahertz? Like, what's gonna happen? The chip vendor is not gonna guarantee functionality, and that's what we want. We don't want them to guarantee functionality. We don't know what's gonna happen. And that's basically, in a nutshell, what fault injection is. It's like, operate outside of those parameters to try to get it to fail in some way that's gonna be beneficial to us. So let's see. There's a lot of things that happen, mostly just like fuzzing. If we're trying like different inputs on things or we're trying to cause a fault in a system, the system's going to crash, you restart it. It's just going to reset, it's going to halt, it's going to do something. That's not that helpful to us unless you're trying to like DOS something, and then that might be good. What we want to try to do is get like a change in software decision, so maybe switching a yes to a no if it's some sort of compare. Maybe we can skip over an instruction. We don't really know. Like a lot of the magic of fault injection, when we're injecting faults in different ways, which we'll talk about, there's some academic work into trying to understand what's happening inside of the logic of the chip, but a lot of times we don't even know. Like we don't even care. We just know if we put this input as a fault and we get our desired output, like that's good enough. We don't know how the internal logic is being scrambled and all of these things. But we want to try to get to something that's useful. So either some software decision or maybe some like computational fault. If something's being fetched from memory, if you can corrupt that memory at a certain point in time, that might be useful. If you can cause some other sort of instruction decoding of like, okay, it thinks it's about to execute one instruction, it's doing something else, like that's pretty cool. Assuming it doesn't erase your device or crash it or something, which there's always a risk. The main kind of thing, at least that I'm focused on, is microcontroller security. And I mentioned you could do fault injection against cryptographic systems. What's also really cool is if a chip is susceptible to fault injection, I'm focused mostly on like the boot ROM section, which is basically like hard-coded code in chips that execute before the user code executes. But if a chip is susceptible, you can actually do fault injection against user code. So you could target, say, somebody's code that they didn't implement mitigations for fault injection, and now you can do the same things of like skip over a check or change the behavior of something in the user code level as well. And we deal with software problems all the time. This gives us a hardware way of controlling software. All your base are belong to us. Yeah, exactly. Whoa. Who recognizes that meme? Is that even a meme? Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's like a lot of people. If you haven't seen all your base, I don't put memes in my slides because I'm like generations behind in memes, but that's the one I get. Yeah, I'm at like Rickroll right now. But I don't have any in here, I promise. No goatsy, yeah. That was reserved for DEFCON. Okay, so microcontroller security. Basically, there's different microcontrollers that are out there that basically are, general purpose computers running specialized code that's in every embedded system, every electronic system, IoT device, all that SCADA stuff, everything that you've heard about is running on some sort of microcontroller. And different microcontroller vendors have different security mechanisms, and what we want to do with fault injection is get access either to the memory, because that's where the goodies are a lot of times, or maybe we want to enable a debug interface that then gives us hardware level control where we can actually like step through the code in real time on the hardware to see what's going on. Or we could change the program counter and skip to something else, or we can view memory and we can view registers and change registers, just like you would do with a piece of software, but now you're doing it on actual hardware, and it's amazing. So there's a project I'll talk about later where we basically had to defeat security of a chip, grab all the code out of it, reprogram it, patching the security features so then we could debug the chip in real time to figure out what was going on and basically to fix a typo that we had in our code that was doing some decryption with it. So it was mostly to patch to get debug access to do something. Where other times, which I'll talk about also, of like you're defeating code protection to get access to memory, which is then going to give you your private keys of cryptocurrency or whatever, and that's the data you need. So there's all these different ways to go. Super fun. But yeah, so we're talking about like boot ROM that's hard-coded in silicon on the chips. And before I got into like learning about fault injection, I didn't even think about that. Like chips are running some engineer's code before it even touches your code, and those are much harder to patch, if at all. Like it's in silicon, they're gonna have to respin the silicon, and a lot of chip vendors don't respin their silicon because it costs too much money. As we know about security, like people don't like spending money on security, and they just push people to buy their newer, more secure chips instead of patching the problems with older ones, which is great for hackers because once a chip is vulnerable, it basically remains vulnerable forever. Yeah. So yeah, boot ROM, user code. There's all these different stages of boot as a microcontroller boots, but we typically deal with boot ROM. We could deal with if there's any sort of configuration that happens on the chip of like loading in certain values that are checking for security or anything like that. Maybe we would do it there. If there's a bootloader, maybe that's doing some sort of code signing, authentication, or something like that. You know, we don't have the signing key, but we want to load unauthorized code, whatever it is, then maybe we're glitching the bootloader to be like, oh yes, this is valid code, even though it's not, right? So you can think of all these things. If you had hardware control of changing what a chip is doing at a certain point in time, that's what fault injection is all about. There are a lot of different ways to go, and part of the challenge, like, it's actually pretty easy to come up and talk about, like, here's all the cool things you could do. The actual doing of those things is like weeks, months, years of work to sort of figure out. But the hope is that you see this and go, okay, I want to try this thing on, you know, this product I'm hacking on, or maybe like running through some of the examples that come with some of the tools to learn about it. But it really is like, it's much easier to talk about than do it, but it is possible, and it's really awesome when it works. So we're going to talk about a couple different ones. We have timing attacks, voltage fault injection, electromagnetic fault injection, optical, so like blasting lasers at things, body biasing. There's a whole lot of them. And then the demonstration I'm going to give, which is the easiest one to sort of show, is a voltage-based fault injection, which really is like the first, that's kind of like the gateway drug, I would say, to fault injection. So I'll talk about that one. That's right, yeah. First demo is free, just to get you hooked. But I'll start with timing. I don't know why I put timing first, probably because conceptually it's the easiest. If you think about every digital system needs to have some sort of heartbeat that's providing like a clock providing a heartbeat to the system, and that controls all the internal logic. Everything is synchronized, internal and external. If you can control that heartbeat and you inject some additional clock cycles outside of that gray box that we looked at, you're kind of giving it like a heart palpitation, right? And it's like, oh, you're gonna give it like, you know, it has like atrial fibrillation for a little bit, or like, yeah, or blow up your heart, or whatever you want to, right? So kickstart your heart, yes, good reference. But then you could do that, right? So if you have external control of the oscillator, of the clock, which not every device gives you that access, if you have it, you inject additional clock cycles, and then you could potentially win. So conceptually, I think that's the easiest one, and you could start with that also. Voltage fault injection, this is basically, you know, you're turning off the lights really fast, and the system is maybe still running, or like the lights flicker, but the, you know, lights stay on. Same thing that we're doing with chips is like, we're pulling power to ground really fast. We're like short-circuiting power and ground, so the device turns off, but we're doing it in like nanosecond or picosecond range, like really, really small, so that the device doesn't completely power off, it doesn't completely reset, but it does some funky thing, and the chip still runs. And it doesn't always happen. Like with all of this stuff, as we'll talk about with characterization, even if you have everything set up perfectly, it doesn't always work every single time, and you just run stuff in loops, and it basically comes down to like, how long do you want to wait for stuff to happen? What we see here on the left is an oscilloscope screenshot where you can actually see the voltage fault that I'm inducing. The blue line is like the core voltage going to a chip, and then I'm doing what's called a crowbar attack, where I'm shorting power to ground. Some voltage fault injection, you don't bring power all the way down. You bring it to some other level, like before ground. You kind of have to experiment with it. But you can kind of see like the signal goes low for some amount of time, and then when I release it, it goes high, and then it kind of like vibrates a little bit, it settles, and then it goes back to normal. With voltage fault injection, everything matters, like the length of your cables, the type of cables you're using, the shape of the squiggle as the signal settles, like all of these things that you really need to visualize, usually, in order to get stuff kind of working. So it's an easy sort of entry, like, again, gateway drug, but there are a lot of parameters, and even if you're following somebody else's work, it's like, why is mine not working? And it could be because they're using braided cable and you're using solid wires, like, and the parameters change because of that. So it's a lot of times you need to replicate and then make changes for your own setup. Also, a downside to voltage fault injection, unless you have something prepped already, is you have to like physically modify your board. With voltage fault injection, because we're like dipping the voltage really fast, capacitors that are on the board to basically smooth out the power lines before they get to the chips, those are going to absorb the dips. So you have to remove those from the board, in order for the chip to be susceptible, because you're trying to hit like the CPU core as you're doing your glitch. But sometimes if you remove all of them, then the system crashes, and now you have to like put some back and see what happens in that case. So there's some experimentation there to make sure like you can actually do something with it. Now we have electromagnetic. So to answer, I don't remember who asked, somebody in the front row, about what was the thing on the front on my first slide. That was a device called the chip shouter, and that's electromagnetic fault injection. So this is a device that has a little coil, and we're injecting electromagnetic pulses, basically contactless, through the chip to induce like currents to flow on the chip, and at just the right time as we do that, a 1 might be a 0, or we're causing, again, some other sort of fault with logic. It's pretty awesome. The benefit to EM is you don't normally need any physical modification of the board or of the chip at all. You just kind of move your probe around, you figure out where the best positioning is, and I'll talk about some of that stuff later. And you either get a result or you don't. The downside is because you have physical access now, as opposed to voltage fault injection, you have one voltage rail and you're just like turning it on and off. EM, you have a physical probe, so now you have your XY coordinates of the chip of like, where's the most susceptible place? Like, where does the chip behave the best for me? And then you have your Z position, which is the height, which sometimes can be replaced with changing your voltage of the fault. And then you have all the typical other things of like, how wide does your fault need to be? How fast? When do you do it? All of these stuff. So EM gives you a whole bunch of other parameters that you have to deal with, which is a little bit tricky. I think this, what's that? Probe. There's actually, so Colin O'Flynn, who makes a lot of these tools, his original board was called the UFO board, and you'd basically have target boards, and on the board were aliens, and it was like, you know, probe me here. So that's how you can learn, yeah. So this demonstration, I'm using the chip shouter just to show EM fault injection in a very manual way, where I have like something that's printing hello. It's like hello, 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 and then I'm pressing the button on the chip shover, or the chip shouter, which is injecting pulses, and then you see when it's successful, it says goodbye. And it only says it once because I think something froze. Yeah. Oh, it totally froze. I see stuff here. Do I need to share my screen? I just need to like turn my laptop around? Yay, okay, cool. So the other one, so optical and laser, this one requires, as you can probably see on the left, you need chip level access to the device. So you have to decap the chip. If you look at integrated circuits, they're mostly plastic packages, and then a little silicon die is inside, and then you have these little wire bonds that connect to the pins. Now, a lot of times with BGA devices, ball grid array, where all of the connections are like balls of solder underneath the chip, and when you look at, you can't see anything on the board when you're looking at it, you have to decap the chip. So you have to get the plastic off, usually with chemicals and mechanical, like you usually shave the bulk away mechanically, and then you use chemicals to get access to the die. I don't do that, but there are a lot of people that do it like in their garage with fuming nitric acid. John McMaster is one guy that does a lot of this stuff, Travis Goodspeed, a bunch of people. But John McMaster actually has this amazing scar on his hand. I think it was from hydrofluoric acid or something like that. And horrendous looking scar that like went through his bone. And then he got like a tattoo of like stitches on it, so it looks like it's crazy. So very dangerous. And this is somebody who'd been doing it for like 25 years. Look up silicon prawn if you're interested in like what John McMaster is doing, PR0N. If you didn't know. The ones who laugh know. Yeah, so you need to decap the chip, and that increases the risk a lot, right? Because now if you're decapping a chip and then you still want the system to work as you're doing it, like that's much more risky. So, like any sort of hacking, we want to do the minimal amount of work to be successful with the minimal amount of risk. And this is one of these things of like, you only really want to do laser if you have to. And the techniques for decapping are getting better, and people are able to do it more in their house safely. But it's still like, I avoid this as much as possible. And if I do need to do this, somebody else is going to decap the chip. And then, yeah, so it's something interesting. But then if you think about your laser, you're shining laser on the device, and that's inducing photocurrents on the chip. You have a tiny, tiny, tiny laser, and now you have a massive area. Where like an EM probe, you're dealing with the size of the chip, but the probe is also bigger. The laser, compared to the die, is tiny. So your kind of area expands. Usually, though, if you're doing chip level, you're not scanning across the whole chip because you can actually see what's on the chip, and then you analyze like, okay, I want to try to hit this memory, or I want to try to hit this bus line that's connected somewhere. So you need to do a bunch of like chip level reverse engineering also. But there are some really good presentations about like how to build your own laser fault injection rig like in an affordable way, and you can 3D print stuff, so it definitely is possible. Another way that is becoming common, especially for devices that are called like chip scale packages, where they're not in plastic packages anymore. It basically is like the die with the solder balls on one side, where you're actually taking a probe and physically touching down to individual transistors on the chip, or maybe a bus line or signal line or whatever else, somewhere on the chip with a tiny probe, and applying voltages to it. So you're making physical contact to the chip, applying some voltage to change some sort of thing that happens. This, to me, sounds insane and very, very risky, and you can kind of think about it as a combination of like EM and laser, where you're targeting a specific area of the chip. But from the stuff that I do, where I'm dealing with like, say, like a hardware wallet, cryptocurrency wallet that has somebody's money on it, like this is very risky, but doing it on a device, say if you're trying to get firmware out of it, and it's an off-the-shelf device, and you can buy a couple of them, and then you do this, that's okay, because you break one, you do the next one, and go from there. So it kind of, you know, it just depends on what you're trying to do. So different types of tools. There's a whole range, just like everything, right? There's like hobbyist stuff that you can build yourself. There's more expensive stuff. There's like really expensive stuff, and you just kind of get what you can and start with that and go from there. I use the Chip Whisperer a lot. Pico EMP is one. So Colin O'Flynn is a guy that had done a lot of, he basically like single-handedly made fault injection and side channel power analysis like accessible to all of us, where before then you really had to create your own custom stuff. He was doing this work as a PhD student, and then it turned into like a company afterwards. So he actually had given some talks at Black Hat and DEFCON quite a while ago, so like you should find those, they're really good. One of them I think is like side channel analysis for cheapskates or something, because before then you needed like a $100,000 oscilloscope and all of, you know, FPGA platform, and now it's like a couple $100 you can do it. So he's really to blame for all of it. Like if you're on the vendor side, like blame him for making this easy for us. So yeah, Chip Whisperer is one. There's a bunch of different ones. I use the Chip Whisperer Husky, Pico EMP, and the Chip Shouter if you want to try electromagnetic fault injection. Chip Shouter is expensive, so unless you have somebody paying for it, you probably won't want to buy that one. But the Pico EMP we're seeing a lot of people using, that is Raspberry Pi Pico based, and it doesn't have like the control that you get out of the Chip Shouter, but totally fine for starting, and you can do a lot with it. And that one's open source. I think it's totally open source. You can build your own. You can buy it for much cheaper. And then there's companies that make different ones. If you're doing voltage fault injection, I'm the type of person, like, I like using tools that I know are gonna work instead of like building my own stuff all the time, because then when something goes wrong, it's like, is it my tool or is it my setup or what's going on? But if you really wanna build your own stuff, you can do it with like an analog switch, a Max 4619, and a microcontroller or an FPGA to generate a pulse. If you're gonna like connect that to a MOSFET and you do voltage fault injection or whatever you want, like you could get by with like a couple dollars worth if you wanted to. It just depends on how much time do you want to spend on your system versus the thing you're hacking on. So like I mentioned, regardless of the type of glitch you're doing, you still need to figure out all of this stuff in order for it to work. And that's called characterization. Some people call it like parameterization or so. Oh my God, there's so many cameras. I'm getting so nervous. So it all comes down to like, where do we inject our glitch? How do we do that? Usually we need some way to know even where to start counting where we want to inject our glitch. So we need some, what would be called like an external trigger, like some sort of thing. Maybe it's like something that happens as the system boots. Maybe a pin goes high and we use that as a starting point. And then we say, okay, we think maybe by doing some reverse engineering or looking at some power analysis traces, 30 microseconds after that point, let's do our glitch. Or maybe we're using something called like SAD triggering, sum of absolute difference, where we're looking at the signal and basically matching a fingerprint of one signal to what we want and say, when the signal looks like this, let's trigger on that. So you need something to know when to trigger. Then you have to start taking guesses about where you want to do it from that point. So there's a lot of reverse engineering that goes into this. And this is a part that can take a really long time. This is an example. Limited Results is a guy that does a lot of really interesting fault injection work. And he's given a couple talks at Black Hat recently, but nobody knows his name. And it's, yeah, one of those guys. It's awesome. I don't know where he works, and probably like a chip company, and then he's doing this to like hack, his own stuff or whatever. I'd make stuff up in my head. But he's amazing. And this example here is, and I'll show you what side channel power analysis looks like a little bit more, but he's basically looking at power consumption as the system is booting, and different things that happen take different amounts of power or voltage changes that you'll see. So he's looking to get sort of a visual representation of how the system's booting, and then using that of saying, okay, it looks like it's a little noisier here, so maybe that's where it's accessing the settings I need from flash memory. And then that's where I'm going to try to do my glitch. So with a bunch of reverse engineering, he realized for this particular chip, which I think was the NRF52, he's like, there's some window of like a couple microseconds right as the power line like dips a little bit. Somewhere in there is where the security bit is being checked that I need to do my fault on. So narrowing it down is the hard part, and then you can kind of run stuff in loops. So yeah, I talked about this, and there's so many different kind of parameters, even to the point of like, if you're dealing with a chip that hasn't been hacked before, you might not know, is voltage better than EM? Do I need timing? Do I have to do a chip level? Depending on if there's mitigations to it, like you don't really know. If somebody has hacked it before, then you have a starting point, and then you can go from there, or maybe the same family of chip you can use as a starting point. But yeah, there are a lot of different ways, and you can get like exponential numbers of kind of things to try. But basically, once you have an idea of like, here's where I'm gonna like trigger, here's where I'm gonna do my glitch, you basically are running loops over and over again, and you're like power cycling a system, you're waiting X amount of time, you do your trigger, you check to see if that worked. If it didn't work, you change the offset a little bit, or you wait a little bit longer, or you make your pulse width bigger, or whatever it is, and you try it again. And you do that over and over and over again, potentially hundreds of thousands or millions of times until you like find some area. Okay, demo. Whew. Okay, so that was part one. That's our little intro. This will be a demo. So this attack is on a device called the LPC. It's an NXP is a microcontroller vendor, semiconductor vendor. LPC is a family of their microcontroller. This particular attack was figured out by Chris Gerlinski, an old school kind of chip level hacker, smart card hacker. And he did this work, gave a talk at Recon 2017. I love this as a live demo because this particular chip, if you get the range, the offset range somewhat correct, the chip is like super susceptible to voltage fault injection. So it's not like the real world where we're waiting, you got to go to bed, you wake up in the morning, you see if something worked. Like this, we'll see, because you guys are going to help me choose the range that we need to do the fault, so we actually might be waiting here a little while. But it's a good one to give a demo of. The security method for this chip is there's something called code readout protection, and there's a bunch of different settings that you can set. With this particular chip, like a lot of chips, there's a debug interface. In this case, there's JTAG and SWD, which are like industry standard debug interfaces. And then there's a secondary bootloader. And that bootloader has like a UART-based command system. So if you get access to that, you can type commands like read memory, and it's going to give you the memory back. The problem is, with these security settings, if security is enabled, that read memory command is locked. So you try to do a read memory command, it's just going to be like, no, I have security. I'm not going to give you anything. So the goal of this attack is to glitch the device to let you read memory out of the device, because normally the memory is locked. The way the code protection is set up is it's a 32-bit value, 32-bit register. There are 4 valid settings. Depending on the setting is going to set a certain state of CRP, of the security state. Any other value other than those, so 2 to the 32 minus 4, fails open and gives you access to the bootloader. Yeah, so it's basically like 4 billion? 294,967,292. Some of you are like, well, obviously. But I had to use a calculator for that. all we have to do is change one bit of that value as it's being read in or processed or handled or whatever it is, and before it gets checked, and then we win. And that's why this one is so good. So the setup is here. You have to trust me because you probably can't see it. This is what it looks like. I took this in my hotel right before I came here. As Bill was like texting me, like, what, Judge Judy? Like, come on, we gotta go. I'm like, wait, I gotta get my hardware working. This is the setup. So I have, instead of a Chip Whisperer Husky, which is the newer version, this is called a Chip Whisperer Lite. So it's a Chip Whisperer fault injection platform, but without a fancy housing on it, and slightly less cool features than the newer one, but totally fine for voltage fault injection. That's on the left. The bottom is our target board. It's an LPC 1114. It's a microcontroller that has code protection, so we can't get access to the information on it. And actually, on this device, there's code, and I actually have like some credit card numbers hidden in there also, but we're not going to do that part because it's going to take too long to like get to that memory region. But it's locked, so you try to connect to it with the bootloader, as you'll see, and it's not going to let us. So we do our fault to try to get access to that. And I just have here just a couple different lines. One of them is power, one of them is ground. So we're powering the device through the Chip Whisperer, and then we have 2 pins that are the transmit and receive line for UART, because we're connecting to the serial bootloader to send the read memory command and hope it lets us read the memory. And then we have 2 lines connected to the reset pin of the device. One of them is to look at the reset pin as the chip powers up, because that's what we're using as our trigger. Like when the reset line goes high, we know the chip has powered up enough. Now we can count from there to do our glitch. And then the other one is to manually reset the chip so we can try it over and over again. So it's really like there's not a lot going on. And then we actually have 2 connections. Where here I just have 1 cable, but the Chip Whisperer supports the side channel power analysis, which I'll explain as we do it, and it supports the glitching. So we're basically going to do some characterization looking at the power consumption first, then I'm going to change the cable to the glitch side, and then we're going to do the glitch. How's that sound? Good, okay. All right, so what's going to happen if what do we see on okay, nothing. Good, okay. That's a good start. I closed mostly everything, but not everything. All right, so now I'm going to share my screen. Oh, yeah, that will be later. How do I do this? Yeah, here, how's that? Yeah, we did it. Hackers, yeah. You can see all like the things I use all the time on my bookmark bar. Oh my God, I should update it. I'm not going to do that now. I swear, every time I travel is when it's like, you have updates. I'm like, I'm not sure I trust that. Okay, so this, yeah, that looks pretty good. So this is a notebook that I use in one of my hardware hacking classes, so it explains a lot of stuff that I'm not going to go through. We kind of talked about some of it, but here's the setup. It's a Jupyter notebook, so we can basically run different cells of Python code, which is handy for like a lot of data processing stuff. Not everybody likes it, but I think it's actually like pretty useful in this case, especially as you're making changes and fine-tuning stuff. You keep your state, and then you can just change certain things. So let's see. I think everything is plugged in. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to first just do like the configuration of the Chip Whisperer, get everything set up with all different timing and serial bootloader stuff. Get some other code that can communicate to the bootloader. Okay, so now we're going to try to connect to the bootloader. Don't clap for this. This is just like normal access to the bootloader. So hopefully it works. Right. Yeah. Okay, there's some numbers on the screen. That basically means we can communicate properly to the bootloader, and it's telling us like its device ID. So now we know that the system is set up. But then if we tried to go and read memory, which I'll show you later, it's going to tell us no, like you're locked out. But first what we're going to do is some power analysis. This is like kind of a simplified version of what you would do in real life, and we're using our actual target board that we're hacking as the same board that we're doing our characterization on. Normally what you would do, like say you're hacking some like piece of SCADA equipment, you would have, and it's like, oh, that's using a I don't know, STM32F205. You would not attack that one first. You would like build a little platform with your own chip that you have your own code running on it that you can do your characterization first before you do it on the target. I'm doing everything on one board. So I'm going to be like erasing the chip, and we're going to basically be setting different levels of code protection and taking power consumption measurements to see what happens with the chip as different values are being used. And you'll see why that can be pretty cool. So let's see. This will take a while, so I'll talk like while it's happening. So first what I'm doing is I'm going to set, because it's really hard to see on here, but I'm going to set the CRP value. We know there's 4 defined values. I'm going to set it to an undefined value of all Fs, because that's all ones. And then I'm going to set it, I'm going to take a capture of that, and then we'll plot it. Then I'm taking a capture with CRP value set to all zeros, because you as the hacker, you can set the CRP value to a non-standard value, like one that's not supported, and then see how the chip behaves. And the goal here is to help us narrow down when the system is booting, like when we actually want to do our glitch. And some of this is only like because other people have done it, and I've done it a lot, and I kind of know the range. If I wasn't helping you, you would maybe see some of these results and be like, let's just try a wide range and run it and come back tomorrow and see what worked. But in this case, we'll do it together and see if we can get anything of interest. So here I'm going to plot basically looking at the diff between CRP of all ones and CRP of all zero. Because presumably if you're dealing with ones or zeros, like there's going to be some sort of power consumption difference because you're dealing with logic level 1, like 3 volts or 0 volts or something like that. So this one actually is not what I would expect, but let's go with it anyway. So this is looking at, I plugged it into the wrong side. Demos. All right, hold on. So as I mentioned, the Chip Whisperer has a capture side and a glitch side, and in the picture, oops, you trust me, right? It had the T connector. I was connecting to both. We have to do it on the capture side first so we can capture all the data before we do the glitch. That explains it. We trust you, Joe. Yeah, just trust me. I actually do that on purpose to be more human. All right, so let's try that again. And so we have to run the whole thing again. We're going to set the state CRP all ones, CRP all zeros, and then see if we're actually capturing data. What we're seeing there is basically just noise, because it looks like super low voltage levels here. Like if we look, it's like 0.001 volts. So it doesn't mean anything, it's just noise. That's why I was like, that looks totally weird. If you see something like that as you're doing fault injection, it's like, all right, maybe that's not showing you any signal that's worth looking at, so maybe you have to look at something else. So let's see. All right, so it did a capture for all Fs. Now it's doing it for all zeros. You can kind of get a sense of like there's a lot of waiting. And I actually have found like with fault injection, so most of the time like with computers, they follow the code, right? Or they follow something and it's very repeatable. With fault injection, it doesn't, because we're injecting faults and we're intentionally causing it to fail. But it's very like unnerving to me to sit there and like wait for something to happen because it may never happen. Then you wouldn't have graphs. True, like this way I do get some really cool graphs, but sometimes they look like this and they don't mean anything, so you never know. But like it's very like, I just don't like the unpredictability of it is like really hard. Okay, so this looks a little better. We see some minor voltage changes, but then we see these big spikes. We don't necessarily know what those mean. We just know that this is a visual difference between 2 different CRP values. So that means that maybe sometime during the boot ROM, as the boot code is running, and it's doing something with the CRP value, like one, probably in this case, like FF, has like these negative spikes that aren't there for 0 zeros, all zeros. So it's like, okay, we don't exactly know, but that's kind of interesting. We see a difference. Let's keep that one in mind. Now we're going to do it again of 2 values. One is with the CRP value disabled, so no security. Then we're going to do one with security enabled and see if there's any sort of visual difference. This is like, just kind of simulating the the real world a little bit. We could, of course, we could skip all of this because I already know the offset range and be like, click, 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 hacked. But this is like a little bit of trying to show the real world process in like, a tiny time frame. All right, so we're gonna wait for this to go. And then we're gonna look at that plot. We'll see if there's any differences. Then we'll overlay both of them and see if there's any noticeable ranges where there's changes happening for both of our settings. And that would be pretty cool, because then that means maybe that's where the CRP value is like actively being checked or something. Skibbity. How much do we get for that one? $2. What was that one? Subway Surfer in the bottom right. What does that mean? Subway Surfer in the bottom right corner. I'm not in on that joke, but this is done, so I'm just going to proceed before I get too deep into something I don't understand. Okay, so here's another one of like, there's a lot of differences, say between like 2,000 and 7,000, and that's basically the number of clock cycles from our looking at reset. There's a bunch of differences, but then it's like there's kind of a more even set of things afterwards, but there's this big spike around 4,000. Like that's kind of like, maybe that's something, because this is looking at the difference between CRP being on and CRP being off. Maybe that spike is like where CRP is checked, and that's where we need to inject our glitch. We don't know. But it kind of is in that range. So this is an overlay of both, and we're going to cheat a little bit here. We know that the range is somewhere between that blue spike at like around 4,000 and then the right-hand orange spike, because those are both graphs overlaid. If I didn't tell you that, then you probably would look at this and say, let's try from 1,900 to 7,500, right? And like hope that something happens within there. But we'll try something. What should we take a guess? I'll kind of guide you so we're not waiting here forever. But what do you think would be a good range, like from this spike to that orange spike? 42. Okay, 4,200 to 5,200. Yeah, 4,200 to 5,200 I would say is a pretty good guess. 4,700, because like 5,000's right here or something, so yeah, I mean, really any of those would be good, and we'll get to that in a second. So now that we did our side channel measurements, we're gonna have a guess at the offset. Now we can try to do the fault injection, and here I'm connecting to the bootloader, trying to read memory, trying to read a block of memory here, and it's like, sending the command, and it's like, no. Code read protection enabled, like, we're locked out, right? So just so I'm not cheating. This is time and voltage, which is directly equated to power, because we have a resistor in there that's doing a voltage drop, and we're measuring the voltage drop. Yeah, so why not 1,900? Because that's the first time we see some sort of difference. It could be 1,900. We're not going to do it just because we could wait. But in reality, like, you would just try it. Yeah, for sure. Because there's definitely noticeable differences in that whole range. And a lot of this is a guessing game, where sometimes you do a small range a lot of times. Sometimes you just let it run overnight and see what happens. And it's possible that if we actually did it at 1,900, it might work. I just know for the demo purposes which range also works. Yes, there could definitely be multiple ranges, and I'll show you that with some of the stuff after we turn off the camera, which is pretty cool. The good part, right. Everyone else stopped watching on the internet because they're like, I'm not even going to get to watch the good part. Okay, so this we know code protection is enabled. Before I forget, now I need to change the cable from the capture side to the glitch side, otherwise it will be embarrassing, because we'd be waiting forever and not see any glitch. I mean, I guess it depends on how much money is going to the Hope House, but no, it's not going to happen. I didn't come all this way to take my shirt off, trust me. And you wouldn't want to come all the way here either. Okay, so now we have to set our range. So we basically have like the offset range. That's going to be the range after the trigger when we want to do our glitch. And then there's a width also. We're just going to leave the width, the number of cycles. That's the time that the pulse is low as we're pulling the power to ground. We're just going to leave that. So somebody had said 4,200 to 5,200. I'm going to change this to 5,000. Again, it might work earlier because you could have multiple times where CRP is checked that you're doing some sort of fault on, but we don't want to wait too long, so let's just move it up a little bit. So 5,000 to 5,200, I'm going to double check all my stuff. It's almost kind of like, I just wanted you to look at the graphs. Okay, so let's try this. So now this is basically going to reset the chip, do the glitch, connect to the bootloader, try to read the bootloader over and over and over again. Okay. Denied. So now we're trying glitch offset 5,000, 5,001, 5,002, denied, 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 denied. And now we're just going to wait here until hopefully within that range we succeed. I should mention too, like temperature in the environment, that could affect things. Who knows? We'll see. And I don't have an oscilloscope to be able to see what's actually happening. So yeah, so what do mitigations look like? That's a great question because I haven't really seen any. Oh, look, success. I'll answer that though. So, woohoo. And so this is offset 5,067. It's not always 5,067. It could be like, if I did 5,100, it might work. If I did other, like this particular chip has a wide range. Other chips have to be like cycle accurate. And if you're off by one cycle, you might trigger an erase or trigger some security thing. As far as mitigations, a lot of the mitigations that I'm aware of are like software-based. So if you're doing a check, like if something equals true, you're not checking a 0 or 1. You're checking like some pseudo-random, whatever, some 32-bit value, and then you check it multiple times. So you sort of are trying to increase like the Hamming weight so you can't glitch as easily. Or do some sort of hash compare instead of like, is the hash correct, yes or no? It's like something more complicated. But yeah, I mean, honestly, there's not a lot of mitigations in most microcontrollers. There are some microcontrollers that are like secure elements or security chips that have microcontrollers with security features. Those tend to have more mitigations, but sometimes they might say, we have mitigations for voltage fault injection. It's like, all right, maybe they have some brownout detection or something else. So let's try EM fault injection. Oh, if they have a shield over it, let's try laser fault injection. Let's decap the chip, get through the shield, and then try it. So I think it's, as we know, like it's hard to prevent everything, and most companies, if they're even implementing anything in their chips, are going to do something, but maybe not everything. Okay, so here's our code that's being dumped out. All the code, yay, success, done. And now we actually have the code where, let's see, I'll show you the file, but let's see if it actually like goes to the right spot. Okay, good. No super personal information, except my dinner here. I was going to order from Char Bar when I'm done with the talk. So here's the dump we just got, and then you could like open it in a hex editor or whatever, run strings, do all your Ghidra stuff on it, and there's your code, and like, yeah, and Notepad++. This is the 010 editor on the Mac, yeah. Yeah, so I only dumped 4K of the chip, 4 kilobytes. There is 32 kilobytes in this chip, but that just takes longer because it's UART. So for the demo, I thought that was fine. And the rest is empty except for the credit cards, which you shouldn't use anyway unless they're your own, which I learned as a kid. What's my credit card? I don't remember it anymore because it gets stolen so often that they just keep sending me new ones. All right, so now we're back to more privacy. Nope. Almost. Okay. Oh my God. Has anybody been keeping track of time? Sorry, okay. Time as a construct. Okay, so some resources related to this if you want to get into it. Colin O'Flynn wrote a book with Jasper Woodenberg, who works at a different company called Riskier. The Hardware Hacking Handbook is a great way to get into hardware hacking. It starts very simply, and then like chapter 2 is like, now we're doing fault injection. So it's a big leap, but a great book. Travis Goodspeed has a book called Microcontroller Exploits. That's like all these really cool microcontroller tricks for all of these different things for defeating code protection and other things. Definitely worth getting. A lot of these other things are just like Major Malfunction, a longtime DEFCON presence. Gave a talk a couple years ago called Taking the Guess Out of Glitching, which talks about like different tricks of characterizing a device. Chip.fail is a presentation that sort of proved that they could hack, well, different types of chips for fault injection, but most notably important for me was the Trezor One hardware wallet, the STM32F2, that they proved that could be done. Leonard Wooters is a friend of mine that we've been doing some work together, and he's done like amazing fault injection work. He hacked the Starlink base station. Pretty awesome. So like, check out his stuff. Wrong baud, realize, limited results. And New AE, the company that makes the Chip Whisperer, Colin's company, they have a ton of resources of different tutorials you can get, and you can like get your system and try different stuff. So like, there are definitely a lot of ways to go. And kind of the summary for at least the part 2 of our presentation. General purpose microcontroller security. Any microcontroller that is just like a general purpose chip that doesn't specifically have security features is generally going to be susceptible to one of these types of faults. And it really is like this tool in your toolbox that once you know how to do fault injection, you just want to smash the shit out of every single chip that you look at. And you pretty much can. Fault injection is dependent on a lot of things. So even though we did the demo, maybe we would have waited longer if we had a wider range. There's so many things that can go wrong, and there's so many things that have to go right in order for you to succeed, but don't let that dissuade you. As long as you know that going into it, then you won't start like second guessing yourself every time something goes wrong, which is a real thing, right? It's like, I feel like fault injection is like imposter syndrome like on crack, because you're sitting there and like something's not working, you're like, why is it not working? What's wrong with me? Am I not a good enough hacker? Because you have all this time to think like while it's working. As long as you know that going into it, then you'll be okay. Or have a therapist also that you can talk to about it, which also helps. When it does work, it feels like magic, right? Like that was pretty cool. Even though we don't even see what's happening, we were able to like break through security. When it works, no matter how many times I do it, it's still like very exciting, and it's probably not healthy because you get this dopamine hit of like, ooh, now I need to do it again. But when it does work, it feels like magic. So very cool. And with that, this is the slide where we can now turn off the camera. So thank you for the internet, for people on the internet watching.
Thank you, Maddie. What's up? Hey, what up? How y'all doing? Hey, hi. Hi. I go by the name Ohm-I. Say it with me, please. Ohm-I. I'm a red teamer. I work at Bishop Fox. I saw somebody here with a Bishop Fox hat on, but they don't work there. So shout out to that guy. I am a PhD candidate. I'm almost done. I'm about to be out of here. Who knows what I'm doing next? We'll see. I'm gonna do a couple of songs for y'all that we can get out of here. We're running a little, it's all right. But I'm just gonna rap for y'all. Is that okay? Yes, it's okay. You don't have an option because I'm gonna do it anyway. This first song is a really good song. It's called Clickin'.
A pretext is a purpose.
You may want to turn this. Oh, this beat bangs.
Assumed in order to cloak the real intention or state of affairs.
Oh, excellent.
Initial access.
Yeah, there we go.
Ohm-I is trying to get into your network.
Listen. This is your manager, and I'm trying to send off an email. I got this document. Need you to confirm a few details. So go ahead and log in, and tell me what you think. I need this now, so to make this convenient, bruh, here is the link, like, I'm a threat actor, fishing mark, the email is urgent to distract you with it, so how fast you clicked it when you submitted your form with your password in it? You probably couldn't tell there was an actual difference in the URL, the domains look alike though. But for you it looked fine though, but mine had typos that make it look like yours. See, I was in the mood today to make your account a communal space, but then you activated your trap card and I saw you had 2FA. But I just shrugged, I'ma shake it off. Got on kick gloves, I'ma take them off. Got your phone number, I'll make a call. I'll break this wall. It makes me low. I'm moving quick. I'm on a mission, yeah. I heard your network is lit. I'm trying to get in, yeah. I'm trying to get me a hit. When I go fishing, yeah. You probably think it's legit. I got you clicking like, hello? Hi, I'm calling you from the IT department. We have been under attack by some hackers and we think that your account might be a target.
Oh no, how do I fix this?
No need to worry, I wrote up a ticket. You'll get a notification from your authenticator app, so please pass me them digits.
1 sec.
Okay. Yeah.
The code is 112345.
Thank you. You fell for the lie, so I hung up the phone without saying goodbye. Cutting it short like a crew cut. Probably think it won't happen to you, but it happened to Uber. They say you win some, you lose some. Boys got a smooth touch hacking you too, bruh. You know how I be creeping and I'm logging on your VPN. It probably looks anomalous, so logs with me keeping them. You're probably unaware about the shares that I've been peeping in. Reason I be seeking them, I'm looking for an easy win. You probably thought it was a magic trick. You're mad you clicked. I'll stack my chips and bet to the D password is sitting in an admin script.
Moving quick.
I'm on a mission, yeah. I heard your network is lit. I'm trying to get in, yeah. I'm trying to get me a hit. When I go fishing, yeah. You probably think it's legit. I got you clicking. I'm moving quick. I'm on a mission, yeah. I heard your network is lit. I'm trying to get in, yeah. I'm trying to get me a hit. When I go fishing, yeah. You probably think it's legit. I got you clicking, yeah. 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 Woo. I drank a Red Bull because I'm exhausted. I'm gonna drink some water. Only beer, no water? I'm not a big beer drinker. I did have a Red Stripe though. I love Red Stripe. Yeah. You're right. This next song is called Oh My God. A couple years ago, y'all know Wiz.io. Yeah, they came up with this vulnerability. And like, you know how like a lot of anytime a company, full disclosure, I used to work for Microsoft. Anytime a company comes up with a vulnerability against Microsoft, they like to give it a crazy name, right? And so the Wiz came out with this vulnerability called Oh My God. And it was basically on the Linux VMs in Azure, there was a vulnerability in the software where if you send a request to the management API without an authorization header, you are root. So, yeah, weird, right? So this song is about that. Yeah. You have to repeat after me as well, right? You can't just sit there and just have a good time. I'm gonna make you repeat after me and have a good time, okay? Okay, it goes like this. Oh my God. 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 Yo. The way that you're moving is basic. I can do what I want, where I want, when I want. I don't need any authorization. You might think you control where I go, but you don't, so you better stop testing my patience. You being complacent. I'm taking over your organization if you don't upgrade it. All of these actors, they know I'm a threat. I advance with persistence, they'll know that I'm here today. Won't see me coming, no noise when I'm running. Put a hole in your system like a 0 day. Those we moving in stealth like a B2. Rats in that steady grass like a C2. Open to the world that is mine when I hack it. Too far is once and it's over when I pack it. Pay attention if you leaving open doors. I'ma look inside like it was open source. I'ma take everything that you thought was yours. Sell under your secrets when I open tour. Far shot from a split that's an RCE. Leave you shocked to the point you can hardly speak. When I dump everything like the largest cheeks getting dropped on the toilet at the RBC. Oh my God. 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 Looking scared for your life. Oh my God. I can see it in your eyes, oh my God. You ain't messing with Ohm-I, oh my God. Take what's yours, call it mine, oh my God. I'ma burst at the seams. When I'm a guest on your host, no virtual machine, taking root where I go, I'm dispersing the seeds like a girl with my hard drive. They'll be searching the D. MZ call back, they're reversing for me, make a child process like the birds and the bees from the place where your AI learns the machines, leak their brain like a murderous scene. If you say that's ludicrous, then I'ma keep disturbing the peace while you cursing the beat and you're yearning for me to release a friendlier version of me. I'ma take over while you're looking for hope. You'll be at the end of your rope. Word to your sub, got my foot in your throat. I'm on top, no secret. I won't stop, no regrets. They hear me rap, they know it's lit. God, I'm saying, oh my God. The plan of attack is in my brain. I'm storming your clouds and it might rain. Catch you by surprise and you might say, oh my God. 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 Looking scared for your life. Oh my God. I can see it in your eyes. Oh my God. You ain't messing with Ohm-I. Oh my God. Take what's yours, call it mine. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, so I even the logo for this song, I just stole it from Wiz.io and put an H in it, because my name has an H. And yeah, cool. Thanks, Wiz.io. Anyway, looking scared for your life. Oh my God. I can see it in your eyes. Oh my God. You ain't messing with Ohm-I. Oh my God. Take what's yours, call it mine. Oh my God. Bars. Yeah. I'm going to do two more, we'll end the night. This next song is not about hacking. This is a story about why I don't like Valentine's Day. I have a lot of laptops. I have ones from like 10 years ago just sitting in my shelves, you know. This song is about laptops. Cool. And this is a whole story about a thing that happened, and we'll talk about it. It's a lot of words in here, so listen carefully. Now people want to know why I hate Valentine's Day. I'ma tell you a story, so listen to what I say. A few years ago, some circumstances came my way. A girl made me angry and she put me in a blind rage. Me and the man that had been dating for a month or two, we be talking on the phone until there was nothing to talk about. That's the kind of stuff being in love will do. But on February 14th, that's when the love was through. Walked into my apartment, noticed the lights out. Turned the lights on, saw a man laying on my couch. Come to find out, she was high on her mind. She didn't have the time to make a lie, wipe her white mouth. She looked like she covered her whole face with flour. Then I saw the spoon lighter in baking powder. Then I asked how her drug payment was made. She told me she sold my laptop with all my games. She stole my freaking laptop and sold it for some crack rocks. I don't know what to say. Now I hate Valentine's Day. She stole my freaking laptop and sold it for some crack rocks. I don't know what to say. Now I hate Valentine's Day. She stole my freaking laptop and sold it for some crack rocks. I don't know what to say. Now I hate Valentine's Day. She stole my freaking laptop and sold it for some crack rocks. I don't know what to say. Now I hate Valentine's Day. My laptop had a terabyte drive and it was storing them. Games I buy that were tied to Steam and Origin. Wanted to cry and my eyes were keeping watering. Then I realized it was a cloud when I ordered them and I could get my games back. Wanted to smack her hard. The factions are that I had an expensive graphics card. Never done any drugs, I think crack's bizarre. Her actions marred Valentine's Day like the blackest star. I backed up far. She screamed, I'm sorry though. Get away from me. All my PC games and my music production was sucked in the void that was devoid of joy. It was clutched in the hands of a drug dealer. I knew I'd never get back my laptop. Then I made a stole so she could get crack. That would probably dismiss the story and just laugh at it. But how do you know your Valentine's not a crack addict? Cause she stole my freaking laptop and sold it for some crack rocks. I don't know what to say. Now I hate Valentine's Day. She stole my freaking laptop and sold it for some crack rocks. I don't know what to say. Now I hate Valentine's Day. She stole my freaking laptop and sold it for some crack rocks. I don't know what to say. Now I hate Valentine's Day. She stole my freaking laptop and sold it for some crack rocks. I don't know what to say. Now I hate Valentine's Day. Now Amanda didn't have any answers to explain her thoughts and logic that had expanded in her brain. She was a doped out crack addict and I never noticed that her personality had to be from her smoking that. I wanted to lay her out flat like a dead turtle, but instead I got calm. Put on my external hard drive where I archived the large size of my notebook. Had old games and songs that had a dope hook. It had the entire system back up from 3 weeks prior. I thought I found my spare laptop so I could stick in my backup. Then I found my spare also missing. Took Amanda to court so I could sue her. The judge sent Amanda to rehab to improve her life. So Amanda would stop smoking crack rocks, and she owed me the price of 2 laptops. Why? Because she stole my freaking laptop and sold it for some crack rocks. I don't know what to say. Now I hate Valentine's Day. She stole my freaking laptop and sold it for some crack rocks. I don't know what to say. Now I hate Valentine's Day. She stole my freaking laptop and sold it for some crack rocks. I don't know what to say. Now I hate Valentine's Day. She stole my freaking laptop and sold it for some crack rocks. I don't know what to say. Now I hate Valentine's Day. What she do? She stole my freaking laptop. Okay. And sold it for some crack rocks. Yeah? She stole my freaking laptop and sold it for some crack rocks. I don't know what to say. Now I hate Valentine's Day. I'm gonna do one more and we'll head out of here after you tip your bartenders, right? All right, cool. This last song is about my. I just heard, oh, I figured you wanted to finish my name when you scream it out. Listen, yeah, so this last song, I like to keep them things on me, you know what I'm talking about? I keep them things on me. I got flash drives, I got extra batteries, I got my flippers, you feel me? So this song's about keeping them things on you. It's called, guess what it's called? Them things, sorry. Whew, there's a lot of words in this one. We'll see if I get through it. There's a lot of words. Whew. Yo, I keep them things on me when I move. You get hit with any payload that I choose. Got your eyes on them devices that you use. If I get my hands on them, you gon' lose. If you ask why all my flash drives are by Hack 5, you'll get baptized with rubber duckies, but not the type you had when it's bath time. If you pick one up when I pass by, when I cruise, your computer's getting abused when it calls back my C2. I solemnly swear I am up to no good. I do a drive-by, I'm checking your Wi-Fi, I'm capturing packets when I'm in your hood. I take it off in a pool from wherever I could, catching up where they all stood. And if I crack them, I'm wow. You'll never catch me hacking, keep the tools on my side. You'll sometimes find me lacking, move when I ride. You'll sometimes find me hacking when I move, when I ride. So it's best that you keep in mind this ain't a game, homie. You know what it do, me and you, we're not the same, homie. Always grip the tools, fire off and they go bang, homie. Always on the move, you know I keep them bangs on me. I keep them things on me. It ain't a game, homie. You know what it do, me and you, we're not the same, homie. Always grip the tools, fire off and they go bang, homie. Always on the move, you know I keep them bangs on me. I keep them things on me. OMG cables are capable of me. Use B-A, B and the C. When I swap them out, you ain't gonna see it was me. You plug it in, now they speaking to me. Turn it like it on, now I'm peeping your keys. Your file system and it's secret to me. Watch me X for the files where your secrets are be. I'm a freak on the drive, got a C in the D. I keep them near on my waist. Now I'm hacking anytime, anywhere, any place. If you got your Wi-Fi on, I got my gear on the trace. Watch me wiggle to your spot and appear in your face. 80211 got me creeping on you. You wanna be in your shoes. You want to meet my C2. See my shells do what the beat about to do. It's reversing axes remotely when I'm hacking you in person. Escalate upways, dashes for certain. If you ain't update, patch or you're virgin. Yeah, I got love for my hot plugs. And I plug them in anything you ain't lock up. Watch you put the creds in the prompt when it pops up. Now your cruise of mine and I do what I want. Cause you know that I'm rocking them things. Payloads going, I'm popping them things. I'm stopping them things. Exploits pop with the chain. Telling it it's rocking my brain. This ain't a game, homie. You know what it do. Me and you are not the same, homie. Always grip the tools. Fire off and they go bang, homie. Always on the move. You know I keep them bangs on me. I keep them things on me. It ain't a game, homie. You know what it do. Me and you are not the same, homie. Always grip the tools. Fire off and they go bang, homie. Always on the move. You know I keep them bangs on me. I keep them bangs on me. Actually, I have a Sans flash drive. This flash drive costs more than it should, right? I have a Samsung one. One has music on it, the other doesn't. Yeah. Yeah. You know what it do, me and you, we're not the same, homie. Always grip the tools, fire off, and they go bang, homie. Always on the move, you know I keep them things on me. I keep them things on me. I keep them things on me. You know what it do, me and you, we're not the same, homie. Always grip the tools, fire off, and they go bang, homie. Always on the move, you know I keep them things on me. I keep them things on me. They say next game, homie. Yeah, one more time. This song's extra long for no reason. It ain't the same. Me and you are not the same, homie. Always grip the tools, fire off, and they go bang, homie. Always on the move, you know I keep them things on me. Clapping off beat, that's crazy. It ain't a game, homie. You know what it do. Me and you are not the same, homie. Always grip the tools, fire off, and they go bang, homie. Always on the move, you know I keep them bangs on me. I keep them bangs on me. Yeah. Anyway, I am Ohm-I. Say it with me, please. Ohm-I. I usually play at DEFCON. We'll see what happens this year. So if you see my name on the flyer, make sure y'all come through, all right? I think is Maddie run? Oh. Run. Hi.